Start the webinar. With the peak recruitment and admissions season underway, universities are always working really hard to recruit the right candidates from the right school boards. Colleagues from the IC3 have now teamed up to help universities decode the leading school boards in India and to help foreign universities understand the advantages and challenges of different boards. Joining me here today on the panel is Kushbu Taparia from the Sanskar Valley School, India, and Devyani Bhatnagar from Sanskar School in India. And I am from the University of Reading in the United Kingdom.
All right, so I'm with you, Kushbu, tonight, and I'm going to begin with a broader picture of Indian educational landscape. So to all of our surprise, by 2025, India is going to see the highest student population in the world, and that's going to be 119 million. India has a competitive advantage to many other countries in the world because India ranks 27 out of 8 countries in English proficiency. Indian government has also supported the education in India, allowing 100% FDI. So as a result, India has seen 1.75 billion as FDI in education sector in the last 18 years. Next, please.
We're today going to be talking about the different boards in India. As majority of universities and schools are aware, we have so many different boards across different parts of India. The most common boards which every university would come across would be the CBSE and the CISE boards, along with the state boards. Increasingly today, we have a number of universities, schools within India following the Cambridge A-level pattern and the IB pattern as well. But today's webinar, we are going to help decode the curriculum of the state boards and CBSE and CISE boards in India.
To start the decoding, we will begin with the first board, which is the Council for Indian School Education Certification Examination, which is the CISCE. Is a non-government, a private board, and it's basically for the education in India. Currently, we are at 2,247 schools in India and counting overseas. Can we move on to the next? So the CISE is area for evaluation in CISE is emphasized largely on understanding, skill development, knowledge, and its application. ICSE is the examination which the grade 10 students take, and ISC is for the grade 12. The total number of students who have appeared in the ICSE examination in 2019 is 1,96,271, and for the ISC examination, it has been 86,713. Well, a very interesting thing is that CISE it teaches concept at a very higher level, especially English core being its the main thing, and because of which we see a large number of students opting for humanities and management because of the language skill being very proficient. So can we move to the next? Like I mentioned, that the grading system is emphasized on understanding, skill development, knowledge, and its application. We can clearly see with the mark, it's a very simple system in CISE for grading, where we can see the grades marks between 90 to 100 is generally categorized as grade 1, and 80 to 89% is grade 2. Then going on to anything that is below 40 is grade A, and for anybody with the passing marks for in CISE examination and the ICCSE examination is 35%.
Okay, now let's compare the CBSE and the state board clearly in India, because this is the majority of the board that the schools in India are following. This is actually comparing an apple to an orange, but we've still tried our best to put in the best information we could and give you some insight into these boards. Next, please. Okay, Central Board of Secondary Education is a national central board in India. It started in 1962 with 109 schools, and today in 2019 it is 21,399 schools pan India, with 211 schools in 25 foreign countries, with a million students appearing for 12th board exam in 2019. Next, please. These are some features and advantages to this board. One is that it is very researched curriculum. The examination patterns are very standardized pan-India. Each student in India studying in this board appears for the same exam, same question, and evaluation parameters are also the same. The question papers are very comprehensive, and the marking criteria is also the same pan-India. Here students can score a very high percentile also. There is a lot of innovation in teaching methodologies in CBSE curriculum, and students really love it. It's very student friendly. A lot of teachers, they go through a lot of training programs and workshops to upgrade their skills and experience, because that's something CBSE really pays a lot of heed to. Minimum attendance required for any student to appear for CBSE 10th and 12th board exam has to have a 75 percentile attendance. Next, please. All right, now here's the grading system to CBSE. I would like to make a note here that CBSE keeps on changing its grading system, and recently it has changed its grading system, and this is how it looks now. It is 91 to 100 is A1, 81 to 90 is A2, and so on. One important note here is that how many of our students who have passed the CBSE exam. CBSE board puts the first 8 students in 91 to 100 and is proceeded the same way. Next, please. Now let's talk about state boards in India. India has 52 state sanctioned boards, and the whole sole responsibility of the curriculum, grading, marking, management, all this is on the state board, and the central board has no say in this. Largest schools in India are still the state boards, because it has it actually goes on to the rural part of India as well. Next, please. Okay, now it was very difficult for us to curate all the 52 boards grading system. So we've put up a generic state board grading system, and it starts with 75% to be a distinction and so on. Every board varies, but minimum pass mark would be 30 to 40%, varying in different boards. Some state boards, like CBSE, also follow relative scale of grading. Next, please. These are the features and advantages to a state board. So usually a student studying in a state board has to study his vernacular in his curriculum. Also, it is possible some schools might even teach the subjects, all the subjects except English, in their vernacular. And a student might even opt to write the exam in his vernacular. Parents who are living in rural India, they do not have proximity to CBSE schools. So they really have to make a choice of sending their students to nearby schools, and that is state board. Also, some parents are really very interested to have their child learn the local language and be integrated with the local culture, and that can happen in a state board. Most of the state boards hold 10th and 12th board exams like other boards, but some boards, for example, Maharashtra board used to conduct 8th standard as a board exam. Madhya Pradesh used to have 5th board as a 5th grade as a board exam. So it might vary, and we need to check on their website for upgraded information. Students inclined towards sports are also studying in state board. Lot of sports students, because they can invest a lot of time focusing on their sports. And a lot of colleges also have sports quota. Some students who are preparing for competitive examinations also prefer to study in state board because they can, parallelly go to their coachings and study for this competitive exam. Next, please. So this is an interesting slide where we've really tried to come up with the strengths and weaknesses of each board very, very transparently. So let's talk about CBSE first. It is academically very rigorous and a very tough curriculum. It is regularly updated, so it's absolutely researched. One interesting point is that CBSE curriculum in India, they also conduct a lot of entrance exams after 12th. And the syllabus of CBSE in the 9th to the 12th pretty much prepares the child to take these exams. So they have an edge over other board exam, students. The major focus of CBSE is definitely math and science. One interesting point is that same syllabus is followed pan-India. Now what happens is parents who are in a transferable job, they prefer to put their children in CBSE board. All CBSE schools are English medium and academic facility infrastructure is very strong. Students can really score a high percentile like I shared earlier also in CBSE board. Students also get varied subject options in 11th grade. Now let's see the state board. State board definitely gives a balance to students who are preparing for very tough competitive local exams and for students who want to go in for sports quota in their college. There are 52 boards and 52 different curriculum. So parents who are in a transferable job, it's very challenging for them. So such parents, this is actually a handicap for parents. So that's the reason they put them in CBSE board. Fees is comparatively affordable in state board compared to CBSE. And like I said earlier, that some state boards might have their vernacular as the medium for communication. Student can even opt to write exams in the state language. They have a very strict marking system, although some boards might not be as strict as the other. The subject options are very limited and traditional, that is humanities, commerce, science, and maths. Next slide, please.
Okay, I'm here today to talk more about the UK universities admission criteria. I'm talking more from a UK university perspective. There are a number of foreign universities which have different ways of assessing the Indian boards. I'm just going to give you an overview of what a UK university, a traditional university, would be looking for from within India, from any of these boards. As we all probably know, a majority of the foreign universities accept students from all different boards within India, which is the CBSE, the state boards, the IB standards, the CISC, the A levels, etc. My colleagues have just highlighted the various different markings and different gradings across different boards. From a traditional UK university's perspective, we would be looking at having a minimum of at least 80% of above aggregate, which is what would be seen as a minimum requirement for a student from either a CBSE or a CISE standard to get an entry into an undergraduate program at a university in the United Kingdom. When it comes to state boards, we will be looking at a slightly higher percentage, which could be up to 85%. And again, it varies from across different boards within India. These are again classified, and the equivalence which we see when compared to our A-level standards is we look at a minimum of 2 A's and 1 B in the key subjects, and which is what we compare to see, and we have seen that to be equivalent to at least 80% in the CBSE and CISE standards and 85 at state board standards. Alongside the generic academic requirements, you also have an English proficiency requirement, which will be the IELTS score, and we need a minimum of 6.5 with no elements less than 6.0. There are universities which also accept TOEFL and Pearson's test, but IELTS is one of the most standardly and widely chosen option. If we can move to the next, please. Um, the table here gives you a comparison figure of what we see, which is equivalent to an AAA at UK A levels, a comparison of AAB and so on. As you can see, I highlighted that we accept a minimum of 80% or above. The universities in the UK would normally average for the lowest minimum would be an equivalent to 2 A's and 1 B, and the least minimal they could go on to accept would be ABB. So within the CBSE standards, and we will obviously be looking at around 85%, which will equate to 2 A's and 1 B. And if we were looking at the same standards for ISC boards, it's also the 85%. And you can see the various classifications on the table, which gives you the equivalents for AAA and ABB and BBB and so on. In comparison to the different state boards, we have some classifications here. You could see the West Bengal State Board, which is normally seen as a very kind of a strict marking criteria, and universities who have been exposed to the West Bengal Board are usually familiar. They understand that the marking is slightly different in West Bengal Board. So we normally see 75% as an average when we compare West Bengal Board to any other state boards in India, because the marking is usually much stricter in that particular board, which is students from Kolkata and the eastern part of India. If we can move to the next slide, we will see the other boards which are also highlighted here. The Maharashtra State Board, which is Mumbai, Pune, which falls under that, we would be looking at a minimum of 85% average from these boards. And the other main boards where universities are really popularly recruiting from across India would be the boards in Tamil Nadu and Karnataka, where we would be looking at an average of around 88%, which is considered equivalent to be 2 A's and 1 B in our A-level equivalencies. Similar to that, we also recruit students. We also assess candidates and accept candidates from other boards. For example, the Kerala board, the Goa, Andhra Pradesh, Gujarat, where we have a slightly higher, even more higher requirement. We will be looking at around 95% average if we were to recruit students from these boards. So that gives you a quick scenario, an overview of what a university will be looking for in terms of a traditional university in the UK in terms of the Indian standards assessment. If we move on to the next slide, I will talk briefly about our application process, what's even more important alongside the grading perspective. A majority of school counselors and university colleagues would obviously know that traditional universities and top Russell Group universities would accept applications only through UCAS, which is an online admission system, which is University College Admission Services. The UCAS would normally allow students to apply up to 5 universities of their choice in just one simple online application form. Students would be required to fill their personal details, and then they're required to obtain a predicted or submit an actual grades to the university when making an application through the UCAS system. What is more important alongside the grade is also a personal statement and academic references from their teachers from their last attended high school. The UCAS system is a very fair and transparent system, and universities are often which use the UCAS system, they find it easier and convenient, and the offers are usually sent via UCAS to the students who've actually applied to UK universities. And moving on to the next slide, we can see a quick timeline of UCAS application process. For those of you who are not familiar with the UCAS application timeline, it's usually between June and September. Students are normally preparing their choices, getting ready to have their application process started. They speak to the school counselors, parents and friends, and they gather all the documents and have them ready before the application starts on the 1st of September. UCAS applications would normally open up in September which is when students will be required to submit all these application documents alongside their application to the 5 choice of universities. There is a deadline of 15th of October for medicine and veterinary science courses, and the 15th of October deadline also applies to top Russell Group universities such as Oxford, Cambridge, UCL, etc. Once the application form has been received via the UCAS system, universities would automatically be notified about the candidates who've applied to their university, to their respective universities. And universities would normally aim to process applications within 4 to 6 weeks. And the offers are usually sent out to the applicants between October and January. There is a deadline of UCAS application, which is usually the 15th of January, whereby majority of students would have actually completed their UCAS choices to UK universities. Having said that, however, there are a small percentage of universities which would continue to accept UCAS applications until June, because universities are also aware that the Indian school board exams are often completed in the month of March, and the results are out by the month of May. So there are a number of universities which would continue to also accept UCAS applications up until June. These are not for the popular courses such as medicine, veterinary, dentistry, etc. This would be for the predominantly for science subjects and management and humanities subjects. As soon as we receive the applications, we would aim to then go back to process the applications, and offers are sent via UCAS to the candidates. It's around the month of August where it's clearing and adjustment in the UK, where students get their A-level results, and final offers are actually sent out to candidates around that particular month. And September is the ultimate month when students would come to the university to register for their course in the UK. If we move on to the next slide, we will be looking at what is also important alongside the application process. Along with the application and the document, we also give significant importance to a personal statement. You may be wondering, why are they so important? Universities in the UK are very unlikely to interview candidates on a one-to-one basis. The personal statement is a unique opportunity for a candidate to sell himself or herself to a particular university and to highlight the fact that they are really great in their chosen subject area. And that is one of the reasons why we would expect to see a better statement, and which will also give an opportunity for a candidate to secure more choices or more offers, because it's a very selective entry. And moving on to the next slide, a quick scenario about what is important within the personal statement. You may possibly know that personal statements are usually up to a maximum of 4,000 characters. It is important for candidates to be aware that on the UCAS form, there is no particular aspect of spell check or grammar check on the form. So students are required to make sure they do not make grammatical errors on the statement of purpose whilst they're making an application. Our admission tutors are usually very thorough in reading every single personal statement before making an offer. So personal statements are usually extremely important for a particular candidate when they make an application to a UK university. Moving on to the next slide.
Yes, I think we've gone through the various curriculums in India, the decoding, the grades, and understanding them, and also understanding from Mahesh regarding the UK application system. There are some very interesting facts and trends that we have observed for studying abroad, which is the first one is basically about the raise in money spent in foreign education, which is there's been a rise from $1.9 billion in 2013 and 14 to 2.8 billion in 2017 and 18, which is a significant rise. So that shows that we have a lot of students who are aiming at going abroad to study and are ready to spend that kind of in foreign education. Also, the second point says that we have 5.53 lakh Indian students are studying abroad in 86 countries, which is a very big number. Then further coming to another fact is, what is the choice of programs that they are taking, which is basically the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and which is followed by business management. Also gaining attention is the unconventional courses, which is history, political science, economics, game design, geophysics, engineering, which is very popular for Indian students. We've also seen a significant rise in a very specialized courses for Indian students who are looking at going abroad to study, which is artificial intelligence, robotics, automation, and mechatronics. The most important thing that we've also analyzed while doing this research is that many universities are exempting IELTS and TOEFLs for Indian students who are scoring above 80% in English from the ISC board and the CBSE board, and 85% in state board. So this is a huge relief for most of our Indian students, one examination less. So can we move on to the next?
All right. So I would like to map it up by talking about what Indian educational landscape will look like in future. From where I began, I said that 119 million student population India is going to witness in 2025. And to make up to that demand, we also will have supply challenges. And with that, we will need more standardized vocational and academic courses, more institutions in India and abroad who can cater to Indian students. Right now, according to RBI, it says that Indian students have taken 700 billion rupees as bank loans for their higher education. So again, the point to be noted is that Indian students are really serious about their undergrad and postgrad education in India and abroad, and they don't mind taking loans for their education. Colleges, now what we really want is that colleges should offer very relevant and practical programs. What's happening right now is still a lot of programs are very talk and theoretical, and that is a handicap for Indian students to jump into the job market. So we need more relevant programs that can help them get a job directly even after their undergrad program. We need more institutions with national importance. So India has a structure where India has some institutes with national importance. For example, IIMs are known for their business programs. IIT is known for their engineering programs. IILMs are known for their law programs in India. And these are all national level institutions owned by the government. So we need more of this, and India will definitely going to see more of such national important institutions very soon in future. Another very interesting thing is that the mainstream learning is going to be different now. In future, we definitely see with the intervention of artificial intelligence, there will be a lot of programs that will be very customized, and it will be delivered online to each student. With that, I would like to share some important links. Next slide, please. Yeah, so these are the links that you can keep a note of, and these are the sites where we curated a lot of information from. So with that, I would like to open the forum to questions and answers this time. We are open for any questions that anyone has. We'll answer one by one. Please feel free to type in or unmute and ask directly.
Hello.
Yes, hello.
Hello. This is Carl from Hong Kong. I just want to ask more on the school, the high school side. I realize there's an early release of ISC and the CISSE results to this year to early May. So is there any reason behind that? Have the the methodology on scoring changed for this 2019 exam?
Well, from a university's perspective, my understanding is basically because of the national elections in India, there's been a lot of uncertainties about what's going to happen once the final election results are due to be out, which is expected in the next 2 days. So that's probably one of the reasons why the Indian boards have actually decided to release the exams well in advance to avoid any sort of chaotic situation or any sort of uncertainties around the time when election results are out. This is my understanding, but my colleagues from India, Kushbi and Devyani, can possibly add on to that point.
Adding on to Mahesh's point, it's largely because of the elections. As a matter of fact, today we are having the counting, and we obviously see the government which is forming. But leaving that aside, there's not been any other significant change that has brought about this. It's only about the scenario, the political scenario.
All right, thank you.
Okay, there's a question here I can see that they want to know where are Indian students wanting to study abroad, less going to USA. Yes, so Indian students are definitely looking at exploring new countries now, where they also get a chance to settle in the foreign countries, and also education wise they get more flexibility. They're looking at new programs, not really going up for those conventional programs that they used to go previously. So US is definitely known for their STEM programs and management programs, but now Indian students are daring to choose a path which is not tread very often. So definitely they're exploring new countries now.
And adding on to Khushbu, the trend that we've seen of Indian students, the applications, the large number of applications, there's a rise for Australia, for Singapore. Hong Kong has significantly received a large number of applications from Indian students this year. So yeah, there is a shift from, and I think, yeah, somebody did write there, looking at the dollar rate. Yes, it is affecting the Indian students because there's a stark difference. So yes, the new destinations are definitely to what I would think would be Australia, Singapore, Hong Kong, and yeah, that's pretty much.
Another point I would like to add that a lot of Indian students are also looking at studying 11th and 12th grade in a lot of Singapore and Hong Kong IB schools. That's a new trend that we can see now in even tier 2 cities. Mahesh, would you like to say something?
I do. To add on to that point, UK has also not lost its charm yet. We are still a popular destination, although there's been a lot of negativity about visa regulations in the Indian press for a number of years. UK continues to be a top choice and a number 2 destination for a number of Indian students, and we have seen particularly an increase at undergraduate levels. Adding on to the point which Kushbu highlighted, more and more parents are actually looking forward to send their children to undertake A-levels in the UK. We have seen an increase in that particular aspect, and students obviously tend to get here even before the graduation, and they come on to do their A-levels in the UK, which makes the transition process much more easier for them to get onto an undergraduate degree program in the United Kingdom. There was also another question here from Shilpi. She's asked about scholarship programs in the UK. There are a number of scholarships within different universities. There are external scholarships, and there are scholarships offered by British Council. The British Council has recently, some of you may be aware, the British Council has recently come up with some really innovative and exciting scholarship opportunities, which was 70th anniversary women-only scholarship. This was predominantly targeted women, whereby they get full funding of any particular choice of course within the STEM subjects, which if they apply to. They also have great India scholarships. Again, until recently, it was part funding, but over the last 2 years, the British Council has been working very closely with a number of universities in the UK who are a part of this exciting scholarship program, where we actually offer up to full scholarship to students under the Great India Scholarship Scheme. And moreover, universities are also getting high quality students at undergraduate level from across different states and different cities within India. And universities have their own scholarship program for their most popular subjects. And I'm aware that a number of universities offer scholarships up to and over 3,000 plus pounds at undergraduate level of study in the UK.
I think
There's a question on the source and data cited for the number of students quoted for Singapore and Hong Kong. We've taken a majority of the data. It's as you can see on the source and the reference slides. All our data is from the CISC website and the MHRD and the CBSE websites. The national websites within India, the main sources for all our figures and facts which we've obtained. So you will be able to get a copy of the presentation. You will certainly see the various different figures which we quoted, and the website which we've highlighted in the previous slide, which will give you a much more thorough and detailed information on the figures and statistics. Kushbu, would you like to add anything on that point on the
A lot of
data?
newspapers, reputed periodicals like Times of India, Hindu. We've taken a lot of, we've really tried to read a lot of articles on students studying abroad. Also, the reason why, at undergrad level, Indian parents are choosing Singapore and Hong Kong is also because of the proximity of India with these places. So, yeah. For the source, definitely Times of India, Hindu, MHRD, there is a lot of research statistics available on these websites.
And I think also looking at the patterns in different schools that we have seen, and in various conferences, this has been again and again taken up, where I've actually picked up about this, and also seeing in this trend in the city where I belong to, which is Jaipur. I've seen a trend of students moving to the Far East more than US, especially with the 2019 applications.
There are a couple of other questions. One is on the scholarship, which I will go back. I mean, as I highlighted, the scholarships are for UG and PG levels. I mean, universities are increasingly offer more scholarships at UG levels as well. And at PG levels, the scholarships are more higher compared to undergraduate level. And you will see a list of scholarships available, which will be posted on the respective university websites. There's one more question here from Bill. He's asked, could you speak on the return of CBSE for class 10 board exams from 2018 and the impact that had on scores that year? Anecdotally, I'd been informed that this impacted results, which we would look at it as predictor of performance in standard 12. Kushbu, would you like to take that question?
Okay,
This
so
question,
there was definitely some confusion in the markings, the gradings that year, and some question papers were actually leaked, and because of that, the CBSE board had to take this step for the 10th grade students to reappear for this 10th grade exam, and there was no other way they could do this. So that's the reason this happened.
I have another question here which says, how do UK universities look at 12 years high schooling? We accept, as I said, we accept, well, if students have not completed their standard 12, they would be required to go through a foundation year. If they have completed up to their standard 12 exam, which should be 14 years of schooling, we would then be able to accept them directly onto a bachelor's degree program. If for any reason they have not been able to achieve the minimum required standards, we would automatically put them onto a foundation year program whereby they would be enhancing their skills further to get onto a bachelor's degree program in the United Kingdom. And a number of universities are either offering their own foundation programs or through a pathway provider. They've joined hands with a number of private pathway providers who are usually able to deliver foundation programs on behalf of the universities, and they are widely accepted by a number of UK universities.
Do we have more questions?
All right. So also a lot of colleagues sent us an email asking various questions, and we have it all with us as a bank. I would like to throw some light on these questions. The very first question is that a lot of students, they drop out at secondary education level. So according to HRD, 17% Indian students, they drop out at secondary education level from CBSE or ICSE board. And I would like to answer this because there are some relevant reasons why this happens. So in India, what happens is that a lot of students, they want to prepare for competitive exams, or they are so focused on their sports that they want to play national, international level sports. And they really move out of CBSE or ICSE to a state board so that they get that cushioning, you know, that comfort, that balance, that they do both these things parallelly, and they don't have to take a drop year actually complete their grade 12. Mahesh, would you like to take another question? So I have a question for you, Mahesh.
Yeah.
So which student will your university pick? A student with 80% in CBSE versus 85% in state board?
Well, universities are very fair and transparent. We assess every single application based on its own unique merit and what the students have actually performed. For us, we're not biased towards any particular board. I mean, the standard requirements, as we highlighted, we would accept a student who has scored above 80% from a CBSE or an ISC board, and a student who's actually scored equally well from state boards would also get the same level of preference as a CBSE or an ISC standard. A majority of students who usually tend to apply to UK universities are far well researched, and they are very much aware of universities' requirements well in advance. When we are actually out at a number of events in country, we actually meet several students and parents right from year 9 onwards, year 9, year 10. They start to get that feel of what it takes to go through a university admissions process, and they start to understand well in advance. So they're very well prepared, and the quality of students which we get are usually from all of the boards, and they're usually about 85 to 90%. So the answer there is, I mean, we would accept every single applicant based on their own unique merit and based on the criteria which we have. So universities are very fair and transparent to all boards.
Okay.
So we have a question that's come in from Andrews, and that says that, are you able to retake the standard 10 or standard 12th exam? Could you want to address that?
Sure. So a student who has failed in grade 10 or grade 12 will definitely have to repeat the year. Or the other way out is a board called NIOS in India. So here what happens is that if the child doesn't want to waste a year preparing for 10th and 12th exams, they can do it flexibly. So this is a flexi learning, but the student at the end of this exam will definitely get a CBSE report card only. So the rigor of the academic is very strong in NIOS, but this is just one way out for these students.
There's another question here. An uptake of AP courses among CBSE students has been noted recently. Do Indian board students with APs have an edge? Would you be able to take that question, Khushbu or Devyani?
I think I'll pass it to Khushbu, but yeah, I do think that they do have an edge because of the credits.
Yeah, definitely. So I think it's not really edge in UK.
It's in UK.
Yeah.
So Mahesh, it comes back to you.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see that fully. Yeah.
We just got.
Well, we certainly, yes, we have been accepting students. We work with a number of different boards, and it's not just the CBSEs and state boards. We certainly do have that. I mean, we have seen a slight trend of increase in that particular APs, and we have certainly been able to recruit students who met our criteria. We're becoming increasingly popular, as I highlighted, at undergraduate levels, and more universities are actually raising their profiles significantly across different sort of boards and different sort of schools and states. If you probably look at the month of August around the IC3 conference, UK universities alongside a number of other foreign universities are out and about, going out to a number of different schools across India, targeting different students in different states and different boards. So we have become increasingly popular, and yes, we certainly have seen a rise, and we kind of accept students from across all different boards.
Okay. Another question is that what should my child study in? Where should my child study in? As in boards, so CBSE versus ICSE. Now here there are 2-3 points that I would like to highlight. That CISCE is a private board, it's not a government board. CBSE is government and central board. The rigor in studies is definitely high in CBSE, but CISCE is even more rigorous. CISCE is very experiential. CBSE is very student friendly, but still it's not still to that level. You know, CISCE has a different benchmark when it comes to experiential learning. Also, a lot of parents who want their students to study abroad, they prefer to put their children in CISCE board because they feel the kind of education, you know, the way the curriculum is transacted in CISCE is very Americanized or British. The style of education is very international. So these are the 3 major points that I would like to bring to everyone's notice.
Yeah, and I'd just like to add one thing, that in CBSE, the syllabus is framed according to the Indian curriculum. Hello?
Go ahead, Devyani.
Yeah. And whereas in IGCSE, I mean the CISCE, especially for the ISC board, the 12th standard, it is more international standards. And like I mentioned earlier in my presentation, that their understanding in the board is, in the CISCE board, is more based on understanding, skill development, knowledge, and its application. Whereas in CBSE, it's like you said, it's more rigorous, it's more academic, especially for students who are looking at studying for the competitive exams, because it's more maths and science oriented. Like the emphasis is more on that as compared to an ICSE board where it is English is the core and it's more on skills development. So that's where we see a big transition when children, and it's again a higher level. ICSE board is a higher level of learning, especially the English core is very, the standards are very high. So yeah, like of course, international CBSE students also apply to the international for study abroad, as a large majority does. But where there is a stark difference is on basis of their understanding and the teaching methodology of both the boards.
Thank you, Devyani. One question to you, Mahesh, which I think is important to answer. Can students get any credit waiver at undergraduate level?
No, it's very unlikely they would be in a position to get credit waivers at the undergraduate level. A majority of universities do follow a rigorous research-led teaching, so they would not be in a position to give credit waivers immediately at undergraduate level. But if there is a transfer from within the UK, if a student has actually studied for a year in the UK at another university for an undergraduate course, it is possible for them to move on to the second semester or the second year to another university. But it's very unlikely that we will be able to give credit waivers at the start at undergraduate level.
So someone wants to know the school structure in India. So India definitely has different types of schools. There are day schools where students just go, like they go early in the morning and come back by afternoon. Then there are day boarding schools where students are practically in the school for the whole day, but they don't sleep there in the school. They're not a resident in the school. And the third, which is really coming up in a very big way, is the boarding school. So India has very good reputed boarding schools as well for boys and girls pan-India, and they also offer various boards in these boarding schools. Let me see another question. Okay, someone also wanted to know the fees difference between state board and CBSE board schools. So I would say a state board school is relatively more affordable. So the fees would vary from 2,000 rupees per month to 5,000 rupees per month. And CBSE school would vary from 5,000 rupees to 20,000 rupees per month, or even more. It really depends on the city also. So tier 2 and tier 3 cities, CBSE schools will be more affordable than the same board, same school, any other city which is a metropolitan city, say Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore. They will be more expensive. Anything else, Mahesh and Devyani?
No, I think
We've
covered. Yeah.
Yeah, we've given an extensive summary and an extensive presentation for the audience. I think it's the audience turn to ask us more questions. We seem to have covered a number of areas within the different boards and the different standards. And some of the audience have actually asked a question if they can get a copy of the presentation. They will certainly get a copy of the presentation. The session is being recorded as well as we speak. They will be in a position to get a link to view the recording later as well.
So one last question I missed out on. How many schools are there in India? So anyone would like to guess how many schools are there in India across all boards, all the length and breadth?
This is a quiz to the audience now who've been listening to our webinar. So it's a quiz to the audience. Whoever's got the correct answer would get a prize from the IC3.
Please check that with Shri.
Anyone wants to type in? Just a wild guess. Okay, so
Can repeat the question, Kushbu. I think
Yeah.
they probably
so
Oh,
sure.
somebody's written 1 million.
Yes, the question is, how many schools are there in India?
We've got
Shen
one
is
answer
really
as
close.
1
Shen is
million is
actually
1.
close.
Yeah.
Anyone else would like to answer? Wow. Wow, so many answers, so many prizes going to so many people, huh? All right, now let me disclose the answer. It is 1.5 million schools in India.
Yeah. That
Well,
was
someone
close.
was nearly close. Ashley was really close. She got 1.3 million. Okay. I think it's been a wonderful and interesting session. We've had some really engaging audience. What we'd like to also highlight is if you do have any sort of questions or any further comments, my colleagues have actually given the email address here. You're welcome to email us at info@ic3conference.com. You can see the email on the chat box, which is info@ic3conference.com. If you have any further queries or questions or comments, we would be very happy to take your questions and get back to you with prompt responses.